So I have to be honest, when I first discovered that Israel managed to eliminate a whole host of senior Iranian regime officials in the IRGC, senior military commanders, nuclear scientists, in a matter of minutes as they went into the Iranian skies to start hitting the regime and their nuclear sites and their missiles, it became pretty obvious that they were deeply embedded. The Mossad was deeply embedded within the Iranian regime. And it's just incredible. But we're now starting to get more details of how Mossad, Israel's secret service, pulled it off. And the Daily Wire have come out with a new report which said that what happened was a fake Israeli phone call triggered a meeting of Iranian leaders, and then Israel targeted the meeting location. And that's how they got so many of them in one go. The report says Israeli Secret Service operatives used a fake phone call to trigger what appeared to be an emergency meeting among Iran's top military leaders and then targeted the location of the meeting. According to a report published Tuesday by the Jewish Chronicle, Mossad used Iranian communication channels as part of a coordinated disinformation campaign targeting top Iranian Air Force officials and luring them all to the same location for what they believe to be an important meeting. So credit to the Jewish Chronicle for this, actually. Amit Segel told the Call Me Back podcast on Monday what Israel did was create a fake phone call for 20 members of the Air Force senior staff and calling them to a specific bunker in Tehran. This meant there was no one to give the order to fire the initial salvo of 1,000 ballistic missiles as Iran had previously threatened to do, he added. The added bonus for the Israelis was the Iranian military leadership was essentially crippled from the moment of Israel's first strike against the world's top sponsor of terrorism, which meant that basically Israel had the head start to start going after their nuclear sites, but also their missile sites as well. The Chronicle reported that Mossad used, quote, falsified communications through Iranian channels to call the meeting, which successfully lured the entire senior leadership of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps aerospace force, including Commander General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, his deputies and key technical personnel, into a fortified bunker outside Tehran. Shortly before the first Israeli missiles struck other targets across Iran, quote, that bunker was hit in a precision airstrike, eliminating Iran's top missile command. As a result, no one was alive to give the command to strike back when Israel hit Iran with the first missile barrage. By the way, from what I understand, the Iranian regime, they keep a lot of these officials in place for a very long time, for all kinds of reasons. But that is a potential vulnerability, because if you just have a few people who have all the levers of power and have the experience and the know-how, it's very challenging to suddenly replace them overnight. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his country had no choice but to act as Iran had continued to pursue nuclear weapons capabilities, and President Donald Trump, who has repeatedly voiced support for Israel, has said on numerous television appearances dating back more than a decade that the Iranian regime could not be allowed to obtain nuclear weapons. So we're going to get more details coming in for sure, over the coming days and weeks about what Israel pulled off. And this will go down in history as equal, if not even greater, than some of Israel's prior military successes. However, this moment is a bit bittersweet, because while Israel and Netanyahu did what they needed to do, Trump then said, stop, ceasefire, before they could really bring the Iranian regime to their knees. And they got so close. And some people have been saying, the main issue with the nuclear issue was resolved, at least for now, so Israel should pull back and not risk escalating this further. But there are others who are saying Iran broke the ceasefire. They're still going to develop more missiles. They'll probably rebuild their nuclear program. They could even purchase a nuke if they wanted to from another country, assuming another country would let them. In other words, the regime stays in place. And if they spoke about, we need to get the head of the octopus, Iran has this ring of fire strategy with Hezbollah and the Houthis and Hamas. But if we can get rid of Iran as a threat, then that will solve the whole issue and transform the Middle East and create peace. The problem is, yes, they may have taken away Iran's biggest missile and weapon, but the regime is still there. They have not yet surrendered. They don't feel humiliated yet. And so it's a bittersweet moment because President Trump told Netanyahu to stop. I don't know what's motivating him. It may well be just his view of war morality. He's thinking, you can't live in a perfect world. There's always going to be foes like this. And we've taken out the biggest issue here. And, if we have to do it again, we'll do it again. But we've done the main thing. So now let's just let things settle down. And I've heard people who are very pro-Israel and who are Israelis and, completely on side that are very sympathetic to that view. I have to say I'm unconvinced, because if you allow them to stay there, they're going to rebuild. They're going to keep doing what they do. And so this is effectively just a ceasefire. And we all know that ceasefires don't last. The way to create peace is when your enemy surrenders and knows that it's lost. They don't think they've lost, even though it's clear that they've taken a really strong beating. And I have to wonder as well, would President Trump, if he had Iran on America's doorstep and Iran's first target was not Israel but America, would he allow them to remain in power? Would he allow that regime to still have the capabilities to target America? I don't think so. Again, I'm not saying this because I think President Trump, doesn't care about Israel, any of that. No, I'm just saying that he's making a slightly different calculation. And I'm saying that I don't think that if this was happening to America, they'd be expected to tolerate this. I don't understand why we can make so much progress, but then we have to hold back. We have to stop. It seems like that's such a common narrative in Israel's history. They're threatened with their enemy. They make progress. And when they can really transform things, no, they have to hold back. They have to start appeasing, giving back, holding back. We got so close, and we saw the incredible ingenuity which clearly had divine blessing. We saw the power of Israel that exists not because of our own might, but because of the divine blessing that Israel clearly solicits. So it is a bittersweet moment right now because the job has not been completed yet. There's more to do. But at the very least in this moment, we can see that when Israel goes for it, the power and might of Israel is incomparable. So this is not to downplay the incredible miracles that we've seen up until now, but it is to say that, if I'm being honest, hand on heart, the job is still yet to be completed.
Thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.